Hi guys, my name is Miss Coleman and today I'm going to teach you how to recreate this beautiful winter village scene. So when I made up this painting a few years ago, I actually did it for a holiday paint night, and so we used acrylic paint and we actually got to do it on a canvas. So if you have those materials at home, you could definitely use acrylic paint to follow along to this video, but I thought not everybody has that at home. So I'm going to show you how to recreate this same painting using watercolor paint to make this beautiful holiday village masterpiece. Now, if you're going to be using watercolor paint, you want to use some thicker paper. So watercolor paper obviously works really well. You can also use cardstock, but it might just not blend as nicely. And what I always do is I like to tape it down onto, I have this little piece of kind of plastic that I tape it down onto, but you could also tape it right onto your table. That way it will dry flat. Otherwise, when it gets wet, paper likes to curl up. So if you don't tape it down, it's okay. It'll still work, but it'll just curl up and you might have to flatten it when you're done. So this just helps out with that step. So we're going to paint our background so that it is a gradient. A gradient means that it goes slowly from one color to another color to another color. So we're going to blend from dark blue to teal to yellow. And I'm going to use this sponge brush. I find that this works really well for making a smooth blended background, which is what we want for this. But if you don't have one of these sponge brushes, you could also just use a soft paintbrush. Because we want our colors to blend, we're going to use the wet on wet technique. So that means that we first just wet our brush with water only and go over our entire painting. Now, I do want everything to be wet. I don't want there to be any dry spots, but I also don't want any big puddles. So make sure you go over it a couple times to make sure that there are no big puddles. That's why these sponge brushes are really good, because they can also help pick up extra water. And now I can start. So I'm going to start at the bottom with yellow. So I'm going to go about halfway up with my yellow. A little bit more. So I'm using liquid watercolors, but you could of course use any watercolors. If you want your colors to be darker, you just go over it more, but not too much that your paper starts to fall apart. If you're not using watercolor paper, that will happen more often, where you'll start to see all these little bumps on there, and that's the paper just falling apart. Once I'm about halfway up with the yellow, I'm going to switch to teal. And I actually don't even need to wash my brush because teal is a stronger color than yellow, so it'll cover it up. So now I'm going to start with teal. Ooh. And I'm going to go a little bit over top of my yellow to kind of help them blend. But I don't want to go all the way down to the bottom, otherwise it will all be one color. I want to see that it goes from dark blue to teal to yellow. And you can see that I'm going all the way from one side, all the way to the other, straight lines across. I'm not going up and down, I'm not scrubbing, straight across. This will help it look like a nice, smooth blend. Now I'm going to finish by using dark blue. And again, I go over top of that teal just a little bit to help them blend. Okay. While my background is drying, I'm going to do my practice drawing so that I can really figure out how I want my winter village to look. And then by the time I'm done this drawing, my background should hopefully be dry and ready to draw onto it. So I'm going to start with my ground line. I'm going to go about 2 fingers up. And I don't hold my fingers there, I just use them there as a measurement and then move them out of the way. And I'm going to make a slow curved line. Not a fast curved line with a bunch of bumps. I want it to be mostly straight because that's how it looks when snow falls. And then I'm going to add a couple different houses. Now you can look up different houses to get some inspiration. Maybe you can go for a walk around your neighborhood, because these houses don't have to look exactly like mine. They can if you'd like, but you're welcome to get creative. So I'm going to draw some houses just using some simple 2D shapes, so squares and triangles. But I don't need to add a door or any kind of detail like that because I'm going to be going over this with Sharpie and coloring it all in black, so I don't need too many details. We'll make a window like this and maybe a chimney. I'll maybe leave a little space, start with another rectangle, and this one I think I'm going to make a trapezoid roof. A trapezoid is what this shape is, with 2 diagonal lines and 2 parallel straight lines. Now we want the yellow to shine through the windows so that it looks like there are some people inside of these homes enjoying the holidays. So I want to make sure that every house has different windows to make it a little more interesting. Maybe I'll do a lower house over here. Ooh, and maybe I'll do arched windows. So like I said, you don't have to copy the way I'm drawing these houses. You're welcome to, but you can also make up your own houses. When I taught this painting class last year, one student made a clock tower and I thought it looked so cool. I love it when students get creative and make up their own ideas. So now that I have some houses spaced out, I also want to add some Christmas trees. So I'm just going to add some simple triangles. And I'm making them different sizes, again, to make them more interesting. This one's going to be a giant one, oh my gosh. And I could add a little star on top if I'd like. But do I want to add decorations to these trees? No, because I'm going to color it all in black, so it wouldn't make sense to draw any decorations. This is just the silhouette, which means we just see the outline of the shapes. Okay, now before I make sure that I'm happy with my drawing, I want to look for a couple things. One is balance. Does my drawing look balanced? It looks unbalanced if all the houses are on one side, or maybe all the trees. We want to make sure that everything is spread out and balanced. I also want to make sure that I have some variety. So that means not all my houses look the same. I make them have different windows, different roofs, same with my trees. I want them all to be a little bit unique. And once I'm happy with my drawing, then I can copy this onto my painted background in pencil first, and then I'll go over it with Sharpie. I'm going to outline all of my shapes with my regular size Sharpie, and then to save time, I'm going to color it in with a thick size Sharpie. So if you have one of these, that's a great trick to make the coloring in a little bit faster. And please remember to go slow and careful while you are outlining your houses. So many times I've seen kids make beautiful, beautiful drawings, but then they rush when they're going over them with their Sharpie, and it ends up looking really, really messy, and they kind of destroy their beautiful art. So take your time and make it nice and neat. So to add our stars, I'm just going to use a little bit of white acrylic paint. You could use any kind of white paint, or even paint marker would work really well. And you could use a toothpick for this tool, but I actually have a special little dotting tool. So that's what I'm going to dip in the paint. And I'm going to very carefully press and lift straight up. And that's how I add my stars. Now, if you would like to add a big Christmas star, let me show you how to do that. We use this little piece of cardstock, but you could also use a real card that is from someone's wallet. Maybe they got it for free, they don't need it anymore. So I'm going to use this card to make my star. So I want it to be about this long. Any longer and my star will be too big. So I'm actually going to dip this edge in my paint. So if I were you, I'd put your paint on a plate so you can get a nice even coating. So I've got some paint on there, and I am going to carefully put my card so it's straight up and down. I'm going to put it not in the middle, but a little off to the side. Right about there. And I'm going to pull down a little bit to make sure there's no holes. And lift up. Wow, there's my first line. I'm going to get some more paint on my card, and I'm going to do that again for a horizontal line. Okay, make sure that my card is nice and straight. I'm going to carefully press it down and then drag a little bit over just to make sure there's no white spots. So cool! And if you want, you can add diagonal lines as well. And if this is a little bit tricky, this might be an adult job too. So there we go. Now we've got our shining Christmas star. And now I can go back to using my dotting tool or toothpick to add more stars. Now go slow and careful for this step. Some people rush through it and it ends up looking really, really crazy. So you need to go slow. Just tap your paper and lift straight up. So there we go. Here is my watercolor version of my winter village. So you can do it in watercolor or acrylic. Of course, all artists make sure to sign their art at the end. And if you'd like, for a little extra fun, on this painting, I got a big jewel from the dollar store and I stuck that in the middle of my Christmas star. So if you wanted, you could also do that on your watercolor one. You could add a little crystal jewel there to finish off your art piece. So I hope that you enjoyed this beautiful sunset or sunrise winter village scene just in time for the holidays.